So I bought a new laptop. And somehow it might be one of the most goth things I own, which is deeply concerning because I own a lot of velvet. It's blue. We'll talk about that. But first, cue intro.
Welcome to Awkwardly Gothy. Awkwardly Gothy, yeah, in the best way. A little witchy, little silly, come hang out and stay. If you love dark thoughts and laughter, this is where you wanna be. Perfectly imperfect, awkwardly Gothy. Awkwardly Gothy.
Hello, beautiful heathens, and welcome back to the channel, where we age gracefully, moisturize aggressively, and continue to romanticize darkness. The premise. So, Apple released a budget Mac, and I have feelings about it. Yes, Apple, a brand not traditionally associated with budget anything, looked into the void in early 2026 and said, what if we made a laptop for people who still have rent? The MacBook Neo was announced on March 4th, 2026, during Apple's very dramatic product week. And then it quietly went on sale March 11th, like a polite ghost entering the room and immediately disrupting the economy. Why it exists. For years, Apple's been living its best premium-only life. But suddenly, laptop prices are rising, and people are budgeting, and Chromebooks are haunting the education market. So Apple did something very out of character. They made their cheapest laptop ever, starting at $599, $499 with an education discount. The competition, lower-end window laptops and Chromebooks. But in true Apple fashion, they didn't just make it cheaper, they made it philosophically cheaper. Instead of an M-series chip, it uses the A18 Pro. This is a phone chip from the iPhone Pro 16, which is less power user and more, what if your laptop was just a very ambitious iPhone? And yet performance-wise, it competes surprisingly well with the M1 MacBook Air from 2020, which many people still use today quite happily. Who is this for? Well, Apple is very clearly targeting students, casual users, parents, grandparents, writers, streamers, and everyday creatives. People who want a Mac but not a financial crisis. And it's especially aimed at education and budget-conscious buyers. The exact people that Apple has ignored historically. My use case. For me, this is a laptop that runs full macOS where I can begin projects where I'm out in the wild, pretending to be productive, and then move them to my Mac Studio desktop where they will either be completed or judged or ignored. Why the Apple ecosystem is secretly goth? Number one, minimalism. Clean lines, empty space with nothing unnecessary. This is not design, this is emotional minimalism. I have removed all my distractions and now I must sit with my thoughts. That's very goth. Number two, closed, sealed, mysterious. You can't swap parts, you can't customize everything, you accept the system as it is. It's not chaotic, it's controlled. You don't change the darkness, you adapt to it. Number three, quiet aesthetic. There's no RGB lights, no gamer chaos, no screaming fans, because literally there's no fan in the Neo. Just aluminum, glass, shadows. It doesn't perform for attention, it simply exists elegantly. Number four, it's quietly expensive Goth has never been about flashy wealth, it's about intentional pieces. And Apple devices are minimal, curated, quietly expensive like a really good black coat, and they hold their value, unlike the disposable relics of the PC world. The Apple ecosystem pull. You start with one device and then suddenly your messages sync, your photos sync, your notes sync, your entire digital life becomes one continuous thread. And now you can't leave, not because you're trapped, but because it would hurt too much to leave. My return to Apple, well, over 30 years ago, my very first machine whispered in Apple tones, a Mac. So my very first experience with a Mac was on the Quadra 950. As you can see, it's quite old and wow, only 7,200. I didn't shell out for that. And 4 megabytes of RAM expandable to 256. So I believe the one I was working on was probably on the higher end of that. And I was able to do things like scan in a pencil sketch that I did of Jimi Hendrix and open that up in Adobe Photoshop and airbrush it. And yeah, had a lot of fun doing that. Again, I didn't shell out for that. I worked for a company who did t-shirts for bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Danzig, Nirvana, and a bunch of others. Then came the long exile when I entered the IT world and was bound to the cold fluorescent dominion of Windows. And for years I endured it. But recently I returned dramatically. And after endless concessions and technical contortions just to make music on a PC, I was done. I left behind a Dell gaming machine with 24 gigabytes of RAMs and a haunting plague of audio latency and other issues, and stepped into a Mac Studio M4 with 64 gigabytes of unified memory. Is it more than I need? Yes. But I don't plan on upgrading or needing to anytime soon. And when I finally do, it won't be worthless. Apple machines hold their value well, unlike PCs. The color. Yes, it's blue. The Neo comes in silver, blush, citrus, and indigo, and I chose indigo. Now, yes, it's not black, but this is not a cheerful blue. This is I disappeared emotionally in 2007 and never came back blue. It's giving me a twilight sky, Victorian sorrow, unread messages. It's definitely goth adjacent, and I'm allowing it. The specs, or the soul of the Neo, this machine is not here to dominate. It is here to exist quietly within its limits. The processor, or CPU, is an A18 Pro chip, 6 cores, 2 performance, and 4 efficiency. The CPU is the mind. It handles apps, system tasks, decisions. So the CPU is the one thing holding everything together even when you're not. The GPU, or graphics processor, is 5 core and handles visuals, the rendering, video. It makes everything look beautiful, regardless of how you feel. It has a 16 core neural engine that handles AI, pattern recognition, enhancements, predictions. It's not the mind, it's not the vision, it's the intuition. It watches, learns, and anticipates quietly and constantly. Ray tracing for realistic lighting, reflections, shadows. This is how the shadows remember the light. Memory, RAM, 8 gigabytes unified memory. It's not upgradable. This machine believes in boundaries. But with this machine, 8 gigabytes goes further than you would think. And that's because Apple's unified memory, where everything shares one pool, one CPU, GPU, neural engine, and there's no separation, no walls. It's like a collective consciousness. but the trade-off is when you're in one room, it's beautiful, efficient, but crowded if you push too much into it. The storage options, and there are two different tiers for the Neo, the $599 or 256 gigabytes with no Touch ID, or $699, you get 512 gigabytes with Touch ID. Remember the $100 education discount, and it basically means you may keep your files, but only the ones that matter. You're going to need an external SSD drive. Your display is a 13-inch liquid retina. It's bright, precise. It will expose your flaws and romanticize them anyway. The battery is good up to about 16 hours with light use, 8 or 9 if you're using heavier graphics apps. What's interesting about the battery is because it was designed for a phone, it has actually better energy management. So the battery goes further than you would think. But again, light use, you can get 16 hours or more, and heavier graphics use, maybe as little as 6 hours. I have not run it through its paces myself. I've heard much more encouraging advice. I've done a lot of review video watching before I purchased this. So I was able to do, at least by this point, half of the editing of this video on the Neo. Didn't even have to use a mouse. And no hiccups. I've actually had more issues with crashes and stuff working with Premiere Pro on a PC, but this is fine. My videos are not very complex, but I do a lot of edits, cuts and transitions and a few overlays, but nothing as intensive as adjustment layers and multi-layers of video. But I have seen many examples on YouTube so far of people doing that successfully, as long as they just don't overdo it. Here is some footage of me playing one of my YouTube videos and playing my video that I'm currently working on in Premiere Pro, and just showing kind of an idea of what apps are open. The ports. Well, there's 2 USB-C ports, and one is fast and one is not. And you get a headphone jack. So choose wisely. The first port is a USB-C 3.0, and the second is 2.0. The first can even hook up an Apple display to, but it's only going to run in 4K. So I use the faster port for an SSD drive, and your other port could be for any other peripherals you would like mice. Camera and audio. You get a 1080p camera, dual mics, spatial audio speakers. You'll be seen, you'll be heard. Whether you're ready is truly irrelevant. I find the microphone to be exceptionally good, and although the speakers are not best in class, they're certainly easy to listen to. They are not harsh on my ears and better than most other laptops at this price point for sure. And you can always use headphones to get the full sound, and that sounds great. Form is fanless, silent, lightweight, aluminum. There's no noise, no warning. It simply exists, quietly judging you. Final thoughts? This is not a machine of chaos. This is a machine of restraint. The MacBook Neo is not powerful, but it's intentional. It has a phone chip, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and just enough strength to keep your life together, but not enough to let you spiral into 42 Chrome tabs, 6K video editing, and producing a full Goth album at the same time. And honestly, what is more Goth than being limited and still being dramatic about it? Well, I hope you enjoyed my little foray into the world of tech, and I took a little time to think about why the Apple ecosystem and even the MacBook Neo could be considered Goth. And until next time, please watch over your fellow Goths and other alternatives, both online and in real life. And I will see you all next time. Love you. Bye.